today I want to talk about something a little bit more morbid, and that is death. I want to talk about death because death is something I've been thinking about for about 7-8 years now. Very specifically, there is nothing certain in life ever. But the only certainty is death. From the time we exist, the only certainty is death, and maybe entropy, two certainties in life. And so death is a very interesting topic to me because I realize lots of people fear death. People fear public speaking and people fear death. I think those are the two things that I have very, very, very little fear of. So today I want to talk about death. I want to talk about something that I've written and I'll read it out. At the same time, I was also just watching a book review, and this book review is talking about a sci-fi book on kind of like what does utopia look like. So let me provide some context of why I think accepting death is very important. I'll give you some thoughts on death. I'll give you some thoughts on this, I'll share a bit more about this book called The Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect. And then I'll share a bit on why I think it's, or how I'm approaching death in the conclusion of it all. So why is death important? To me, I think from an economics perspective, right, from a very, very rational perspective, number one, death is the only thing that is certain, which means for every decision I make, there is an opportunity cost because I cannot make another decision. So for example, if I decide to go to a dinner party, it means that I can't use that same amount of time to go and play computer games. And it's in these options, or me making a decision, having an opportunity cost of saying I cannot do something else, gives life a lot of meaning, gives my decision a lot of meaning. And that's in a small setting. In a larger setting, it means that death in our lifetime means for every decision we make in life, there is a value, and the value is equal or more than or equal to the value that we could have gotten if we chose another path. Because life is quite, it's quite pointless, it's quite meaningless, in which you create your own meaning, which I think is really fun. And in this process, the value of the path that we chose is related to all the other paths that we could not have chosen. And because there is death, because there is a time limit to how much time we can spend on this earth doing whatever stuff you want, whether meaningful or bad stuff, those decisions become binding, become meaningful. Death is the full stop to us existing, to us making choices. That means every choice has an opportunity cost, every choice has a value. And I think that's very meaningful in me deciding how I want to spend my time. Sure, I could do nothing all day, and there's sometimes I do absolutely nothing. And that's okay, because that's what I've chosen. Other times I'll be working, I'll be thinking, I'll be reading, I'll be researching, I'll be going out with friends, I'll be hanging out with family, I'll be doing my hobbies, I'll be exercising, I'll be cooking. These are choices that I've made that gives me meaning, because I know that once I experience death, everything is gone. And I think that helps me approach life in a very refreshing, exciting way, because there is an end to all of this. The flip side of this is that when there is no end, when it's completely in an abundance, it means that today I can choose to play computer games. Next week I will go and have dinner with my friends. There is no opportunity cost, there's no cost to any decision, because time is infinite, we never die, we will live forever. Anything that you want to do that you can't do, you can do again in some other time. And I see a lot of benefit in that, but I think it will rewrite how we function as a society. And at least in this present state, we don't live in that society, and there's no point harping too much about it. Talk about it a little bit more in this sci-fi book called The Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect. But first, I want to share a little short piece that I've written about death. I wrote this in 2019, so it's been 6 years. And I started with a quote. When the time comes to die, make sure all you have to do is die, by Elizabeth Elliot. I really love this quote because that's it. When you're on your deathbed, you don't spend time worrying or regretting or wishing something else could have changed. No, when it's the time to die, all you do is just die. It's like a proper conclusion of this thing that we do called life, and I think it's very exciting. I continue. Life is interesting, for everything is absolutely uncertain except for one thing: death. Death is a taboo topic for many cultures, but it is literally the only thing that everyone in the world will experience, be it a president, a janitor, a queen, or an economist. Everyone, no matter what, will experience death, and that is certain. Some are more efficient at reaching there, but we will all get there someday. For the longest time, I feared death and aging. Living in a fountain of youthfulness, I appreciated the curious thoughts about all possibilities, the endless hopefulness in the future, and the ambition that is not wiped away by the cynicism of reality. More often than not, most of my friends enjoy hanging out with me because I have provided a naive ambition to change the world, something that reality has killed for them. So I feared that one day I will be a bitter old lady, too cynical to continue enjoying the beauty that the world can provide. And that was until I learned about death. Let me continue reading before I give you some comments of how I, in 2025 now, is reflecting on what I've written in 2019. People say that they fear public speaking more than death itself. But I'm absolutely sure many people fear death enough for industries and research institutions to create drugs to slow or reverse aging. There was a time where I invested in Buddhism and in the Tibetan and Bhutanese way of life. We typically understand time in a linear way. There's a past, there's a present, and there's a future. However, time is relative and there is no structure. It is whatever you deem it to be. Yet in some cultures, time is cyclical. There is no clear distinction between the past, the present, and future. It is all interconnected and a huge blur. Does it mean to say it invalidates the linear form of life? No, it's just a different way of organizing the structure of how one understands time. Cyclical timelines talk openly about death, for death is part of how we are reborn again in the reincarnation philosophy. That aside, the way they understand and deal with death opened my mind to a new perspective of death. By mixing both linear timelines of the world and understanding death from an Eastern philosophy, death becomes a lot less scary in a way I look forward to, because when the time comes, all I have to do is die. The curious realization I had is that once you accept the fate and the fact that you will absolutely die someday, it frees up a lot of constraints, fears, and worries. Everyone is going to die anyway. Time exists only here, right now. There is nothing stopping me from going to seize the day, to do anything I want, to do a good job, and fill the world with more love than I have entered. At the end of the day, death is certain, and from now to death, the possibilities are endless. At death, it is not like I can bring my research papers, certificates, contracts, and whatnots with me. Death is just the end. Full stop. Fini. Nada. So from now on to the point in time, I can do everything I want. The only constraint is what I set myself up for. Obviously, I'm not stupid to set up many constraints, so by accepting death, it frees up all the constraints. I remembered in 2012, I was in some jungle with friends going towards a waterfall. I feared every step I took, and my friend just said, go for it. What is the worst thing that could happen? You die. You're going to die anyway, so you're not going to change the ending of your story. And so I learned to be brave and never looked back since. At the same time, death is not just about doing everything you want with no consequences. That would actually be a pretty bad idea. So I started asking myself, can I die today? And since 2014, the answer has always been yes. And it's 2025 and the answer is still yes. Yes, I can die today. Yes, I can die right now. Yes, at this point I have done everything I could. There are no regrets, no worries, nothing. I'm happy And if my time is up, that is fine. I look forward to death. And when it comes, it's going to be very calming and peaceful. And all I have to do is die. In the meantime, that is really up to however you want to craft it. It's more than 10 years now, and in fact, now it's probably almost 20 years. I've been living life to the fullest, adding goodness to the world and having great new adventures. There is something about the certainty of death that opens my brain up to embracing all sorts of uncertainties that is to come. So that's the piece that I've written back in 2019. And I really love this piece. I come back to this all the time because it reminds me of my approach to life, especially during down times or when I feel like I'm struggling. I know that the only certainty is death. And everything from now to death, it's all about endless adventures. Go out, do different things, meet new people, listen to stories, create new stories. It's just a whole world out there, and it's very exciting. And at the same time, I do want to talk about this sci-fi book because this is the book that inspired me to talk about this topic today. It's called The Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect. So I'm actually not going to read the book because the book is quite gruesome. It talks a lot, goes into very gory details about, death and murder and torture, and I don't want to do that. However, the thesis of this book is something I've been talking about a lot. The whole idea that I do not want to live forever. Because the other side of death is that it's longevity. Or beyond longevity, immortality. You never ever die. In a very simple sense, it sounds amazing, right? We never ever die. We get to do everything we want. And there's a really good show on Netflix called The Good Place. I love watching it. I watch the entire thing once every couple of years because it talks a lot about philosophy and it talks about how we approach life. And I really like that kind of perspective where you live life, you go to some form of heaven, and you get to experience all sorts of things that you want to experience, where if you want to learn carpentry, if you want to learn boxing, if you want to learn photography, if you want to learn cooking, you give infinite amount of time to go and learn these hobbies. At the same time, I think that's a very utopian way of thinking. So I'll share a little bit of what I think the downside of immortality is, and then I'll talk about this book because this book takes my idea into a whole new level, and it kind of blew my mind a little while listening to the book review. So the context I'm coming up with is that, remember, having death means limiting our choices, which gives value to decisions we make. And this intrinsic value really binds our actions and has this intrinsic social contract between each other because of this. Happy to go into more into details next time, but that's the gist. Death gives value to any decisions we make right now. Now, the other side of this is there is no death. It's immortality with all the time in the world. And to have meaning in our decisions, you need to have a greater sense of, you need to feel something. You need to feel something even more. So it could be, and that's where the book goes into. It could be going into torturing. It could be going into murdering someone. It can be going into, partying all night and then smashing the shops, because there isn't really consequences to our actions because with all the time in the world. And the idea of consequence is a very different way to conceptualize consequence in an infinite timeline. So I think that will change our behaviors a lot. And I don't think that's for good, because I think we'll go down the hedonistic way where it could all be enjoyment, and it could be a very deranged form of enjoyment. Not to say that, and I'll give you an example, and not to say that this is representative of all the multi-generational wealth individuals, but for example, there are a lot of stories where, these multi-generational wealth people, they don't make a name for themselves. They can never make a name for themselves. Let's say you are Andrew Carnegie's future generation. You can never be as famous as Andrew Carnegie. So you'll always be known as Andrew Carnegie's great-great-great-grandchild. So you'll always be known as your ancestor's name. And I can see that it can be quite depressive because you never make a name for yourself. You never work hard to earn something. And what do? You end up, getting into drugs. You end up partying too much. You end up going insane. It's it's a whole wild situation that I think normal people will probably not understand, and I wouldn't understand as well. So that's the concept. I think being immortal has a lot of downside. It's actually quite scary. It changes a lot of how society works. Maybe, what works is that whatever we know as society will be completely changed, and I think that could be also quite exciting because we're rebuilding it with a brand new abundance. Time is no longer a constraint, time is in abundance, and how do you organize amongst ourselves to build a society? That could be something interesting. But let's go to this book. This book is called The Metamorphosis of Prime Intellect. The whole thesis is that this scientist created this robot, and this robot uses Isaac Asimov's 3 robot rules. Basically, you should always protect the human, you should protect yourself, but never at the expense of a human, and I forgot what the last one was. So basically, there are 3 rules to how robots should function, and I noticed these 3 rules are in every robot sci-fi that I read. Anyway, this scientist created this AI called Prime Intellect. It follows these 3 laws, and what it does is that it basically builds and updates the world so that it protects us human. It got so good that it got so good that humans now, they live forever, they never feel pain, they never feel any suffering, and they basically do whatever they want. Immortality in that sense. And that's where a lot of crimes start coming in, killing each other and all of that kind of stuff. And there are chapters that's very gruesome. That's why as much as I want to read this, I'm kind of scared to read this, so I'm not going to read it. But I think this, at the end of the day, I'm just going to do a very high level conclusion of this for you. So there are the other categories of protagonists and antagonists in this community, but the long story short, which I'm going to just go straight to the point so that I won't spoil too much of the book, is that the AI for some reason shuts down, breaks down, and is destroyed by itself because no one else could destroy it. It was just so advanced in its intelligence that no humans could be more advanced than it. So the only way it was to destroy it from within. So it got destroyed. Humanity went back to the absolute no technology, agrarian society, hunter and gatherer, super basic low level life, or low fidelity life, and then rebuild humanity again. And so that's the book. Of course, there are a lot of things in between, and I'll also link the book review if that's what you want to read. And it's just such a fascinating story because sometimes I feel like we're living in this world today. Not in the degree that the world is destroying itself with AI, because AI is only getting started, but even AI aside, countries are kind of getting destroyed from within. A lot of how society is being written, or how society functions, seems to be getting rewritten. So we're in a cusp of a new era, a new destruction, a new timeful monster before the good times are here again. And it's just going to be a very exciting time to be alive, to be building something, to be contributing towards this world. As I said, I also want to talk about one of these paragraphs that I've written in my list, which is people enjoy hanging out with me because I have this naive ambition to change the world, and something that reality has killed for them. I feel that one day I will be a bitter old lady, too cynical to continue enjoying the beauty the world can provide. Not to say that the world has crushed my naivety of the fact that I could change the world, but I've come to a bit more of a grounded realization that I want to change the world, but I cannot do that, right? It's just too big. And the only thing I can do is change myself. And I don't want to change myself to be a cynical person. I think I want to change in a way where I'm looking for pockets where I can contribute and provide a lot of value to, and these kind of communities that I can keep adding value with. So I don't know what that looks like. I have some idea of what that looks like yet. I just don't know how to articulate it. So I'm going to take some time, going to experiment a few things, and then hopefully I can share that with you in a couple of weeks, months, or hopefully not years. So till then, that's today's entry on death. It's quite a morbid topic, but I think it gives so much meaning once we truly embrace death and we get to live life in our own way, shape and form. Till then, I'll speak to you soon. Bye!